You've been lied to. Every self-help guru, every motivational speaker, every Instagram quote tells you the same thing. Just be happy. Find your joy. Choose happiness. But here is what they won't tell you. Nietzsche discovered that the happiest people are the most mediocre, that comfort kills ambition, that the greatest minds in history were tormented, restless, and deeply unsatisfied. And if you're watching this, chasing happiness like everyone else, you're already losing. This video will destroy everything you think you know about success, fulfillment, and what it actually takes to become extraordinary. Before we dive in, if you want more uncomfortable truths that actually change your life, instead of making you feel good, hit that like button and subscribe. Most people won't finish this video because it challenges everything they believe. Let's see if you're different. Let's start with something that will make you uncomfortable. Right now, in this moment, are you happy? And I don't mean the fake happiness you post on social media. I mean genuinely, deeply satisfied with your life. If you answered yes, you're in trouble. And if you answered no, you might actually have a chance at greatness. Nietzsche spent his entire life studying human excellence, not success, not wealth, not fame, but actual greatness, the kind of rare transformative impact that echoes through history, and what he discovered will shatter your entire worldview. He found that every single person who achieved true greatness, every philosopher, artist, conqueror, visionary who changed the world, shared one common trait. They were profoundly unhappy. Not sad, not depressed in the clinical sense, but fundamentally dissatisfied with the world as it existed. They carried a restless discontent that burned inside them like a fever they couldn't cure, and that fever drove them to create, to destroy, to rebuild, to transcend. Happiness, Nietzsche realized, is the enemy of transformation. Think about it. When you're truly happy, when you're comfortable, when you're content, what do? Nothing. You maintain, you preserve, you protect what you have. Happiness is conservative by nature. It says, this is enough. It says, I've arrived. It is the ultimate form of stagnation dressed up as achievement. And our entire modern culture is built on selling you this poison. The self-help industry makes billions, telling you that happiness is the goal, that if you just buy this course, read this book, practice this morning routine, you'll finally be happy. And then what? Then you'll sit in your comfortable life, scrolling through your phone, consuming content, maintaining your mediocre existence until you die. That is the promise. That is what they're selling you. A beautiful, comfortable grave. Nietzsche saw this coming. He watched people in his time chasing what he called the last man, the final evolution of humanity into creatures who blink and say, what is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star? These are things the last man cannot understand because he is too comfortable, too happy, too satisfied. The last man has invented happiness, and Nietzsche looked at this future with absolute horror, because here is what happiness actually is. It is a biological reward system designed to make you stop. Your brain releases dopamine and serotonin when you achieve something. Find food, reproduce, secure safety. It is a signal that says, good job, you can rest now. Happiness is literally your biology telling you that you've done enough, that you can stop striving, stop climbing, stop reaching. And for our ancestors surviving in the wilderness, this made sense. But for someone trying to achieve greatness, it is a death sentence. Every great person in history understood this instinctively. Beethoven composed his greatest symphonies while deaf and suicidal. Van Gogh painted masterpieces while starving and insane. Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment in debilitating poverty to pay off gambling debts. Einstein developed relativity while working as a patent clerk, ignored by academia. None of them were happy. They were driven by something far more powerful than happiness. They were driven by what Nietzsche called the will to power. And before you misunderstand, the will to power isn't about dominating others. It is not about wealth or control or fame. It is about the fundamental drive to overcome yourself, to transcend your current limitations, to become more than what you are. It is the force that makes a seed crack through concrete to reach sunlight. It is what makes a child learn to walk despite failing hundreds of times. It is the core engine of all growth, all evolution, all transformation, and happiness shuts it down completely. When you're happy, you have no will to power. You have no need to overcome anything because you're already satisfied. You're like a plant that has stopped growing because it found a comfortable spot. And that is exactly what modern society wants from you. They want you happy, satisfied, content, consuming. Because happy people don't revolt, they don't create, they don't challenge, they don't change anything. They just maintain the system and buy more products. Nietzsche called this slave morality. The moral system designed by the weak to keep everyone weak. It preaches humility, contentment, acceptance, happiness. It tells you that ambition is greed, that dissatisfaction is ingratitude, that restlessness is a character flaw you need to fix. It convinces you that wanting more, being more, achieving more is somehow wrong. And slowly, without realizing it, you internalize these values. You start to believe that happiness is the goal, that being content is virtue, that your burning desire for something greater is actually a problem. But let me tell you what that burning desire actually is. It is your will to power trying to break through. It is your potential screaming at you that you're capable of more. That dissatisfaction you feel when you're lying in bed at night, that sense that something is missing, that feeling that your life should be bigger, more meaningful, more impactful. That is not depression. That is not a chemical imbalance you need medication to fix. That is your soul recognizing that you're living below your potential, and you have two choices. You can listen to modern culture, take the antidepressants, practice the gratitude journaling, follow the happiness habits, meditate your way to contentment. You can chemically and psychologically engineer yourself into being satisfied with a mediocre life. Millions of people make this choice every single day. They choose happiness over greatness, comfort over growth, peace over power, and there is nothing wrong with this choice if you genuinely want it. But let's be honest about what you're choosing. You're choosing to be the last man. You're choosing to stop becoming. Or you can make the other choice, the one almost nobody makes because it is terrifying. You can embrace your dissatisfaction. You can stop trying to cure your restlessness and start using it as fuel. You can recognize that your unhappiness isn't a bug, it is a feature. It is the gift that separates you from the herd. It is the divine discontent that every great person in history felt burning in their chest, and instead of medicating it away, you can let it consume you, let it drive you, let it transform you into something greater than you ever imagined. This is what Nietzsche meant by amor fati, love of fate, not passive acceptance of whatever happens, but active love of the struggle itself, learning to love the dissatisfaction, the difficulty, the pain, the endless climb towards something that might not even be reachable. Because the climb itself is what makes you great. The struggle is what forges you. The discontent is what drives evolution. Think about the people you actually admire, not the people you're supposed to admire, not the celebrities or influencers, but the people who genuinely inspire you. The artists, scientists, leaders, creators who changed the world, were any of them happy? Really think about it. Einstein's personal life was a disaster. Steve Jobs was notoriously difficult and never satisfied. Marie Curie worked herself to death with radiation. Nikola Tesla died alone and broke. Muhammad Ali sacrificed his health for his principles. None of them chose happiness. They chose something greater than happiness. They chose what Nietzsche called tragic joy. This is completely different from happiness. Happiness says, I have enough. Tragic joy says, this will destroy me and I choose it anyway. Happiness is reaching the summit and being satisfied. Tragic joy is reaching the summit and immediately looking for a higher mountain. Happiness is comfort. Tragic joy is the exhilaration of pushing beyond your limits even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. This is the secret that modern culture desperately doesn't want you to know, that the path to extraordinary achievement requires extraordinary suffering, not meaningless suffering, not suffering for suffering's sake, but the inevitable pain that comes from choosing the harder path, the bigger challenge, the impossible goal. And you can't have tragic joy if you're chasing happiness. They're mutually exclusive. You have to choose. Here is what this looks like in practice. Most people wake up and their first thought is, how can I feel good today? What can I eat, watch, buy, consume that will give me that hit of happiness? Their entire life becomes organized around avoiding discomfort and seeking pleasure, and they wonder why they feel empty. Why, despite having more comfort, more entertainment, more options than any generation in history, they feel less alive. But imagine waking up with a different question. What can I overcome today? What limitation can I transcend? What fear can I face? What impossible thing can I attempt? This is a completely different operating system. It is not about feeling good. It is about becoming more. And yes, it is harder. Yes, it is uncomfortable. Yes, you'll fail more. But you'll also actually live. You'll actually grow. You'll actually become someone extraordinary, instead of just feeling temporarily okay. Nietzsche had a thought experiment he called eternal recurrence. Imagine a demon appeared and told you that you would live your exact life, every detail, every moment, infinite times forever. Would you curse the demon, or would you fall to your knees and thank them? Would you be devastated to live your current life forever, or would you embrace it? This is the ultimate test, not are you happy, but would you choose this life again and again for eternity? And here is the brutal truth. If you're optimizing for happiness, your answer will always be no. Because happiness is fleeting by definition. It comes and goes. It is dependent on external circumstances. The happy moments in your life aren't enough to make you want to relive everything, including the painful parts. But if you're optimizing for growth, for overcoming, for becoming, then even the painful parts become essential. They become the resistance training that built your strength. You wouldn't remove them even if you could, because they made you who you are. This is why Nietzsche had such contempt for Christianity and Buddhism and any philosophy that promised happiness through detachment or heaven or enlightenment, because they all teach you to transcend suffering by escaping life, by finding some peaceful state beyond desire, beyond struggle, beyond becoming. They're all sophisticated forms of giving up, of saying, life is too hard, I want out. And Nietzsche looked at this and saw the ultimate nihilism, the ultimate no to life itself. His alternative was the opposite. Say yes to everything. Yes to the pain. Yes to the struggle. Yes to the dissatisfaction that drives you forward. Yes to the impossibility of your goals. Yes to failing and getting back up. Yes to being misunderstood. Yes to sacrificing comfort for creation. Yes to choosing the path that will probably destroy you, but might transform you into something magnificent. This is what he meant by the Übermensch, not a superhuman in the comic book sense, but a human who has overcome the human need for happiness. And let's address the obvious objection. What about mental health? What about depression? Isn't this dangerous advice? And yes, clinical depression is real. Chemical imbalances are real. Trauma is real. If you're genuinely suffering from mental illness, get help. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the existential dissatisfaction that comes from living below your potential. The specific unhappiness that comes from knowing you're capable of more but choosing comfort instead. Modern psychology has made a catastrophic error. It has pathologized all forms of discontent. If you're not happy, something must be wrong with you. You must be sick. You must need treatment. But what if your unhappiness is actually your psyche being healthy? What if dissatisfaction with a mediocre life is the correct response? What if your depression is actually your soul's rebellion against a life that is too small for you? We've created a culture where the healthy response to an unhealthy situation gets treated as the disease. Nietzsche himself suffered from terrible health problems his entire life. Migraines, vision problems, digestive issues, eventually complete mental breakdown. He wasn't preaching from a place of privilege. He knew suffering intimately, and his philosophy wasn't suffering is good. It was suffering is inevitable. So the question is whether you suffer meaninglessly or whether you transmute your suffering into greatness. That is the key distinction. Not avoiding pain, but making it meaningful. Every great work of art, every scientific breakthrough, Every revolutionary idea came from someone who refused to be happy with the way things were. They were disturbed by reality, troubled by its limitations, driven by a vision of something better that didn't exist yet, and they sacrificed their peace, their comfort, their happiness to bring that vision into reality. This is the pattern always, without exception. You cannot be both comfortable and great. You cannot be both satisfied and transformative. You cannot optimize for happiness and simultaneously optimize for achievement. These are fundamentally different games with different rules. And the tragedy of modern life is that we're all trying to play both games at once and wondering why we're losing both. We want the comfort and the greatness, the peace and the power, the happiness and the legacy, and it is impossible. So you have to choose, and most people won't. They'll spend their entire lives in the middle, not quite happy, because they know they're capable of more, but not committed enough to actually pursue greatness. They'll live in the gray zone of mild dissatisfaction mixed with occasional pleasure, never quite content, never quite alive. And this is actually the worst option. It is the one that gives you neither happiness nor greatness, just a long, slow death of potential. Nietzsche called people like this the herd, and he didn't mean it as an insult exactly. Most people are meant to be part of the herd. They find meaning in belonging, in fitting in following the established patterns. There is nothing wrong with this. Society needs the herd. But if you're still watching this video, you're probably not herd material. Something in you rejects the comfortable life. Something in you wants more, needs more, demands more, and you can either suppress that voice or follow it. Following it means accepting that you'll probably never be happy in the way normal people are happy. You won't find satisfaction in the things that satisfy them. A nice house, a stable job, a comfortable retirement. These things will feel like prison cells to you. You'll always be restless, always chasing the next mountain, always dissatisfied with what you've achieved, because you can see what you haven't achieved yet. This is the price. This is what you're signing up for. But here is what you get in return. You get to actually live. You get to push yourself to limits you didn't know existed. You get to create things that never existed before. You get to look back on your life and know that you gave everything, that you didn't play it safe, that you didn't waste your potential chasing comfort. You get tragic joy instead of happiness. And if you understand the difference, you know that is a trade worth making. There is a moment in Thus Spoke Zarathustra where Nietzsche describes the metamorphosis of the spirit. First, you're a camel, bearing the weight of all the values and expectations others have placed on you. Then you become a lion, fighting against these values, destroying what no longer serves you. And finally, you become a child, capable of creating new values, new meaning, a new way of being in the world. Most people never get past the camel stage. They just carry everyone else's expectations until they die. Some people reach the lion stage. They rebel against society, reject happiness culture, fight against mediocrity. But they get stuck in destruction mode. They know what they're against, but not what they're for. They're perpetually angry, perpetually fighting, but never creating. And this is almost as bad as being a camel because you're still defined by what you're reacting against. The goal is to reach the child stage, where you've destroyed the old values, rejected the happiness trap, and now you're free to create something new. Not rebelling for the sake of rebelling, not suffering for the sake of suffering, but using your dissatisfaction as raw material to build something that never existed before. This is where tragic joy lives, in the creative act itself, in the process of overcoming, in the endless becoming that never reaches a final state where you can stop and be happy. And here is what nobody tells you. This path is lonely. The herd won't understand you. Your family will worry about you. Your friends will think you're taking life too seriously. Society will offer you 1,000 temptations to give up and choose comfort. And there will be moments, probably many moments, where you wonder if you made the wrong choice, if happiness wouldn't have been better if the herd wasn't right all along. This is the test, the real test. Not whether you can achieve greatness, but whether you can maintain your commitment to greatness when everyone around you is choosing happiness and making it look appealing. When you're struggling and suffering, and they're comfortable and content. When you're uncertain and they're secure, when you're climbing and they're resting, this is where most people fail. Not because they can't achieve greatness, but because they can't tolerate being different, being alone, being the one who chose the harder path. Nietzsche called this the pathos of distance. The psychological distance between someone committed to greatness and someone committed to happiness. And that distance grows over time. You develop different values, different priorities, different ways of measuring success. What excites you bores them, what drives you confuses them. And slowly, inevitably, you realize you're living in a completely different world than most people. And you have to be okay with that. You have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, to be at peace with never being at peace. This is the final paradox. The path away from happiness leads to something deeper than happiness, something that doesn't have a good English word. The Greeks called it eudaimonia, not pleasure, but flourishing, not comfort, but excellence, not satisfaction, but becoming. It is the feeling an athlete gets pushing through the pain to beat their personal record, the feeling an artist gets creating something they've never created before, the feeling a scientist gets solving a problem everyone said was impossible. It is not happiness. It is better than happiness. It is the feeling of being fully alive, of using your potential instead of wasting it, of becoming instead of just being. And once you've tasted it, happiness will never be enough again. You'll understand why all the great people in history were restless, driven, never satisfied, because they were addicted to this feeling, this sense of expansion, of transcendence, of touching something beyond their current limits. And maybe you're sitting there thinking this all sounds exhausting, that you just want to be happy, that you don't need to be great. And if that is genuinely true, this video isn't for you. Go be happy. Seriously, there is no shame in it. Most people should optimize for happiness. The world needs people who are content, who maintain society, who find joy in simple things. That is a perfectly valid choice. But if something in you rejects that, if something in you knows you're meant for more, if something in you burns with dissatisfaction that won't go away no matter how much you meditate or how many gratitude lists you write, then maybe it is time to stop trying to fix yourself. Maybe it is time to realize you're not broken, you're just not meant for happiness, you're meant for greatness. And those are two completely different destinies. Nietzsche spent the last decade of his life insane, completely mentally destroyed. He achieved almost no recognition during his lifetime. He died thinking he was a failure. And yet, over a century later, we're still studying his work, still grappling with his ideas, still being transformed by his philosophy. He sacrificed his health, his happiness, his sanity to give us these ideas. Was it worth it? By happiness standards, absolutely not. His life was tragic, painful, lonely, but by greatness standards, he achieved immortality. His ideas changed the world. He transcended his mortal limitations and became something eternal. Would he have traded it all for a happy, comfortable, forgotten life? Never. And deep down, you know, you wouldn't either. Because you are not here by accident. You are not watching a 30-minute video about why happiness is the enemy of greatness because you want to be happy. You're here because some part of you already knows the truth, that you're capable of more, that you're meant for more, that your dissatisfaction isn't a problem to solve, but a calling to answer. So stop trying to be happy. Stop following the happiness habits and the gratitude practices and the positive thinking. Stop medicating your discontent and start weaponizing it. Stop asking, how can I feel good? And start asking, what can I become? Stop optimizing for comfort and start optimizing for growth. Stop trying to arrive somewhere and start loving the endless climb. This is the path. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. It is not happy. But it is real. It is alive. It is worthy of the potential burning inside you. And at the end of your life, when you look back, you won't regret the pain. You won't regret the struggle. You won't regret choosing greatness over happiness. You'll only regret the times you played it safe, the times you chose comfort over growth, the times you listened to the herd instead of your own burning dissatisfaction. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your why cannot be happiness. Happiness is too small, too shallow, too fleeting. Your why has to be something bigger than yourself, something worth suffering for, something worth sacrificing for, something worth becoming for. And when you find that why, when you commit to it completely, when you let it consume you and drive you and transform you, you'll discover what is beyond happiness. You'll discover tragic joy. You'll discover what it means to be fully alive. You'll discover greatness. The question is simple. Are you ready to stop being happy? Are you ready to embrace your dissatisfaction as the gift it actually is? Are you ready to choose the path that almost nobody chooses? Because it is too hard, too lonely, too uncertain? Are you ready to become one of the few who achieves greatness instead of one of the many who settles for happiness? The choice is yours. It always has been. But now you know what you're actually choosing. Now you understand the real trade-off, and you can't unknow this. You can't go back to believing that happiness is the goal. The question is what you'll do with this knowledge. Will you suppress it, ignore it, pretend you never heard it? Or will you let it set you free? Will you let it burn away everything that is keeping you mediocre? Will you let it forge you into something greater than you ever imagined possible? Nietzsche believed in you. He wrote for the few who would understand, the few who would be willing to pay the price, the few who would choose greatness over happiness, the few who would say yes to life in all its terrible beauty. Are you one of the few? Or will you join the many? Your answer will determine everything.